The school gym rattled with noise, sneakers squeaking sharp against the polished floor, the echo of basketballs bouncing, and a crowd of teenagers chanting in uneven rhythm. 16-year-old Jasmine Harris, a tall black girl with dark brown skin and braided hair tied in a ponytail, wore her gray hoodie and jeans, clutching her books close. Her quiet strength showed in her steady eyes, but today that calm was tested. 3 boys from her class stepped forward, blocking her path near the bleachers. Their voices were mocking, sharp enough to cut through the gym's buzz. A shove to her shoulder, then another. The circle tightened. The crowd laughed at first, some whispering, others pulling out phones. The sound of sneakers scraping against the wood mixed with the bullies' taunts. A punch snapped her backward. Jasmine stumbled, arms flailing. Then it happened. Her head struck the gym floor with a crack so loud it silenced the entire room. Gasps rippled through the air. The buzzing lights above flickered, humming louder against the sudden quiet. Jasmine lay still, and in that silence, no one expected what her mother would do next. Monique Harris, 39 years old, walked the hospital hallways with tired but steady steps. Her scrubs clung to her frame after another double shift, the faint smell of antiseptic following her home. She had trained herself to smile even when her eyes burned with exhaustion. To her, every extra hour worked meant keeping the lights on, food on the table, and, most importantly, giving her daughter the future she deserved. At home, Jasmine Harris, 16, often waited at the kitchen table with her sketchbook open. Her fingers smudged with pencil or paint, she drew faces, colors, and dreams no one at school ever cared to see. Basketball was her other love. The rhythmic thump of the ball against the driveway concrete often echoed into the night. Their bond lived in small moments. Reheated takeout, eaten side by side. Laughter over Monique's failed attempts at drawing. The gentle silence where Jasmine leaned on her mother's shoulder after long days. But outside those walls, the world was not as kind. At school, Jasmine stood out. Whispers floated behind her back. She thinks she's better. Always off by herself. A cruel note stuffed into her locker. Shoves in the hallway that teachers pretended not to see. One morning, Monique noticed the faint bruise on her daughter's arm. Jasmine brushed it off with a practiced smile, insisting it was nothing. But Monique knew better. Her daughter's quietness was not just shyness. It was the silence of someone carrying weight too heavy for her age. The school staff, busy with their routines, avoided eye contact when Monique raised concerns. They wrote it off as kids being kids, their indifference hanging like a heavy shadow over every parent-teacher meeting. And all the while, Jasmine kept sketching. She filled page after page with drawings of people holding hands, standing strong, standing together, but the real world around her stayed cold, divided, and blind. And the school's silence was about to cost them everything. Jasmine tried to do the right thing. One Monday morning, after another shove in the hallway sent her books scattering, she gathered her courage and walked into the guidance office. Her voice shook as she explained the bullying, the names, the bruises, the cruel notes stuffed into her locker. The counselor barely looked up from her computer. Teenagers can be cruel. Don't let it get to you. That was it. No report, no protection, just dismissal. The next weeks grew darker. Her locker was vandalized, paint smeared across her sketches, pages torn and thrown in the trash. In the cafeteria, a carton of milk was poured over her tray while the teachers pretended not to notice. Each insult, each shove, each trip in the hallway chipped away at her spirit. Still, Jasmine carried her sketchbook. Still, she bounced her basketball on the court after school, trying to believe in something better. But one day, the cruelty crossed the line. The gym was nearly empty after practice, the lights buzzing faintly overhead. Jasmine was gathering her things when the bullies blocked the exit. 4 of them. Their sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as they closed in. "Thought you were better than us, huh?" one sneered. The first shove knocked the ball from her hands. The second sent her crashing against the bleachers. Fists followed, blunt, merciless. The thud of her body against the hardwood echoed like a drumbeat. She tried to scream, but another blow silenced her. Then came the final slam, her head striking the floor with a sickening crack. Silence fell, broken only by her shallow breathing. Jasmine's eyes fluttered, and then closed. By the time a janitor found her, she was unconscious. At the hospital, Monique's hands shook as she clutched the silver locket she always wore, her mother's gift, her anchor. The monitors beeped steadily, but Jasmine did not stir. Tubes and wires snaked around her, drowning out the laughter and light that once filled her world. When the police came, their words felt colder than the hospital walls. "Looks like a fight gone wrong," one officer muttered, scribbling on his notepad. At the school, administrators gathered in stiff silence. Their excuse was rehearsed. Kids being kids. No acknowledgement of the bruises, the notes, the warnings ignored. Monique's voice cracked. "She's in a coma." "And you're calling it kids being kids?" No answer. Just shifting eyes, just silence heavy with guilt they refused to carry. Back in the hospital room, Monique pressed Jasmine's hand between her own. "Baby, come back to me," she whispered. Tears rolling freely, the monitors beeped, steady but unforgiving. And that night, as the world dismissed her daughter's suffering, Monique Harris made a decision no one saw coming. What would you have done? That night, Monique made a decision no one saw coming. The school board meeting was supposed to be routine. Reports, budgets, polite nods and yawns. But that night, the air was different. Parents packed the gymnasium, their voices low with unease. Students shifted nervously on the bleachers. Teachers sat stiff at the front. Then the doors slammed open. Monique Harris strode in, every step sharp, her hospital badge still clipped to her scrubs. Her eyes were rimmed with sleepless nights, but her voice carried the strength of a mother's fury. In her hands, she held Jasmine's gray hoodie, blood-stained, the fabric torn where her daughter's head had struck the floor. Gasps rippled through the room as she laid it on the board's polished desk. "Do you see this?" Her voice thundered, breaking the silence. "This is my daughter's blood." "This is what your silence cost." Whispers turned into uneasy shuffling. The board members froze, unsure if they should speak or shrink. Monique's gaze swept the room. Every shove, every note, every cry for help, ignored. "And now she lies in a coma because you decided it was easier to look away." She pointed at teachers in the front row. "You saw the bruises." Her finger moved to the principal. "You heard the reports." Then toward the parents of the bullies, sitting stiff with denial. "And you defended cruelty as if it were normal." Her voice shook, but it was not weakness. It was power breaking through. "You all failed her, and you will never forget her name." She slammed her palm on the desk. "Say it." The silence cracked. A student in the bleachers rose first. "Jasmine," then another. "Jasmine." Soon the whole room echoed with it. Students, parents, even teachers who had once stayed quiet. The chant rolled like thunder. "Jasmine! Jasmine! Jasmine!" Monique stood tall, tears cutting down her cheeks, but her voice did not waver. "She is not invisible, and neither am I." The board members shifted under the weight of hundreds of eyes. For the first time, they were the ones cornered. For the first time, the shame belonged to them, and in that moment, the school realized it wasn't Monique who was on trial. It was them. The fallout came fast. Within days, the bullies were expelled. The school board issued a public apology, but apologies could not wash away the blood on their hands. Under pressure from parents and the community, the principal resigned, his silence finally costing him everything. But for Monique Harris, none of that mattered as much as the hospital room where her daughter lay. Every night after her shifts, Monique sat beside Jasmine's bed. The machines hummed softly, a rhythm of survival. She would hold Jasmine's hand, lean close, and whisper, "You are stronger than this. You are not alone. Mama's right here." Her voice carried all the power she had unleashed in the boardroom, but here it softened into love. The story spread beyond the town. News outlets carried images of the blood-stained hoodie, interviews with students, clips of Monique's fiery speech. Social media burned with outrage and support. Across the nation, conversations erupted, not only about bullying, but about the silent prejudice that let it grow unchecked. Commentators said fists had knocked Jasmine down, but silence had almost buried her. And then, one quiet morning, as sunlight streamed through the blinds, Monique felt it. Jasmine's fingers twitched against her palm, small, fragile, but real. Tears filled Monique's eyes as she pressed her forehead to her daughter's hand. It was not victory, not yet, but it was hope, because Jasmine's fight was far from over, and so was her mother's. The world had seen what silence could do. Now they would see what voices united could build. Her fight was far from over, but so was her mother's. If stories like this must be told, join us. When a school fails its children, who will rise to protect them?